There are these voices that have been left out of the conversation, and they have to be part of the conversation, or else the conversation can't move forward. I grew up in a town just outside of Cleveland, Ohio called Maple Heights. There was a lot of racial tension, people throwing stuff out car windows at you and racial epithets. I discovered the library pretty early. And so the Maple Heights Public Library was where I first discovered African American literature. When I first started teaching at Penn, the goal was to help non-Black students understand that African American literature could inform their humanity just as profoundly as Shakespeare or Melville or Hemingway or Faulkner or Virginia Woolf. And that was a bit of a hard sell because they didn't think African American literature had anything to do with them. So when I connect that to doing Veterans Upward Bound, I'm aware of the fact that there are people that have not been exposed to the stuff that I'm going to talk to them about. As veterans, a lot of them have experienced trauma and upheavals in their lives. So Citizen Barlow in Gem of the Ocean resonated with them because he starts off as this very troubled young man who does something that has very serious consequences for the entire community. And he has to learn how to live with that. Again and again, these men said, I identified with Citizen Barlow because I was a heroin addict and my life got so bad, I hit rock bottom, I lost my family, I haven't seen my children in X number of years. But what was really clear in each instance was I wasn't talking to people that thought of themselves as victims. They owned the fact that they had had a hard time. You can't create a more equitable and just circumstance unless you're willing to be accountable for the stuff that you've done. And all of these people were. By that time, I was teaching a class that involved people from West Philadelphia. We wanted to drive home the idea that storytelling and story listening is important to the class. And so we would really build a class around interviews with people from the community that students would then use as the basis for monologues delivered by characters that they had created. Humanities gives you an opportunity to have a window into another community and to feel for maybe 30 minutes, an hour, like you're part of this community. I think there are people that believe that the Black community is a monolith. And it's not. There's such a diversity of views. There's as much diversity of views as there are people. And we're lazy when we let that notion of a Black community that is monolithic stand. And nobody's well served by it. So, part of it is you got to get them to realize it is possible for you to be a young white woman from Connecticut writing a monologue in the voice of a 75-year-old jazz musician who lives in this community. My ultimate concern is that my students value the humanity of people that don't look like them. We call it the humanities because in the end, everybody's flesh and blood and everybody has the same concerns and the same fears and the same anxieties. And without PA Humanities, we can't do that on a wide enough scale for people who live in opposite ends of the state to have a connection with one another. The humanities really is the only way that we can live up to E pluribus unum, out of many one.